Hey, welcome everybody. What a beautiful day to start a new series. Today we're going to be starting a series on beginners carpentry. And the first episode is going to be about hand tools and just starting with the absolute basics. And by the end of this video, we will have built a pair of sawhorses. Because, you know what? I've had these sawhorses for, I bet 15 years, and they have, you can see a piece of plywood attached on here. It's just screwed on. But I use that for a guide when I run something through a table saw for it to just slide across on, so you're not getting a lot of weight off the back of the saw. So those sawhorses are one of the absolute beginning, for me, things that you'll need to do construction, do carpentry. So let's get started with hand tools. I think that's a very good place to begin. Okay, number one for me, for what I'm thinking, is the most basic, is a tool belt to hold your tools. And I'll tell you what, there are 1,000 different styles of tool belts out there, and you just need to find the one that you're comfortable with. This one, the thing I like about it is the buckle. It's just like that. So you can put it around your waist, depending on how much weight you've gained or lost, and it fits really well. Okay, the other thing, that's a little snug actually. Okay. The other thing is I'm left-handed, and so you need to set, if you're left-handed or right-handed. For me, most of my hand tools are on this side. Most of my fasteners are on this side, screws or nails or bolts or whatever. This is a 20-ounce S-Twing hammer. It's 30 years old probably. Fits like a glove, you know. So I like a metal loop for the tool belt. There's some that are like a rawhide that loop around. For me, I always found them hard to to get into the holster. I wasn't looking, so let me try that again. It's simple, right? Okay, but the leather ones, they tend to bind coming up out of there, where the metal ones don't. This one swivels. I don't like that. I would like it fixed, but I haven't been able to find the combination of the tool belt that does that. So over on this side, I also wish the bags were a little closer to the front. It's not. This one on the back, let me show you, has a place for a tape measure that you can put in there. I never use that because it's easier for me to use it over here. And the tape measure and the hammer are probably the two things that I use the most. We'll go over using a tape measure when we build the sawhorses. That's going to be a fun little project. What good's a tape measure without a pencil, right? These are all just standard carpentry pencils. That one's from Lowe's. This one's from Al Lumna Acres. Great guy. I don't know where that one's from. But anyway, they're all flat, so they don't tend to roll much like a round pencil. If you drop it, if you're on a roof and you drop a pencil and it rolls off. So anyway, today, it depends on the mood I'm in. I'm going yellow because it shows up really well. I have a little slot for that, so I can grab the tape, the pencil, or the hammer easily. Next item is a utility knife. This one of you folks this is 10 years old probably, had a suggestion. Check this out. So it has two different blades. One is just a regular blade. The other one is a hook blade. I use that a lot for when I was doing roofing. I don't use it so much anymore, but you can select which one you want. Utility knife goes right there. It's just the way this belt was made, and I searched for quite a while to try to find one that I like. It does have another loop over here, so I could have a second hammer if needed for backup if I drop one off on from somewhere. Next thing I try to always have with me is a speed square. It's a way to find just a level. If you're trying to find an angle, if this is your point and you want to cut it at, this is marked 0 to 90. If you want to cut it at 40 degrees, you can put it right there, make that mark, and it'll, or this mark, depending on where you're at. Then you can just cut that. Really handy. And I put that over on this side. Hey, so a level. That's another important item. 4-footer, 2-footer, a 1-footer. I don't know why they add on the end. It's 4-foot, 2-foot, 1-foot. But this is a 4-foot. They do that on a lot of construction materials, like a header, footer. My mind's blank now. I can't think of any other things, but they always add ER on the end of a lot of things. If any of you out there know why, just let me know. Eye and ear protection, safety glasses, clean them periodically. There's a crow laughing at me. Some for, depending on if it's a cloudy day, you can use these yellow ones and it kind of brightens things up. Earmuffs for hearing protection, so you can't hear anything. For hearing protection, so you can't hear anything. So that's those. I knew I had a round pencil, so the pencils will roll, round ones will roll away. Don't use those much. Screwdriver, a Phillips and a regular. They're just handy to have, so I keep those over on this side. Depending whether or not I'm working with metal or vinyl siding or anything, I'll have tin snips. There's a left-handed snip and a right-handed. Depending on how you're cutting will sometimes influence which one you use. There's also a center cut. It's basically the right-handed one, but just set up a little differently for cutting center cut. 15 or 20 bucks each. I sometimes lovingly call this a nose picker or a nail puller, cat's paw. If you have a nail that you need to pull, you can push that in there, loosen it up, and then pry it out. When you do that, when you're prying a nail out, just be careful, because sometimes they come out, if you're pulling it towards you, sometimes it comes out with force. Speaking from experience, and the nail flips, comes up and hits you in the head, and if you're not wearing safety protection, could be in the eye. Okay, handsaw. This one is rusty, but sometimes, and partially because I rarely use it, sometimes I use it for cutting foam insulation or something, or rarely for wood because I use power tools. A caulking gun. This is interesting. Let's take this right out. This is my preferred style of caulking gun. It has these dull notches so that when you turn it, it like ratchets in. This is an old caulking gun. Most of the stores sell them without this. It's just round all the way around here. And that's fine, but it won't work on this gun. But when it's designed to catch and pull that in as you go. But over time, especially if the caulking or whatever you're using is cold or coming out hard, and you keep squeezing that, you get notches built into that, and then it'll skip, and it just doesn't work as well as a defined notch. That's why I love that. Next is a circular saw. You can go battery, which this is. Just there's a little release there. Pull it out. Batteries are expensive. I mean expensive. But it's handy, so you're not lugging a cord around. You can just hang it off your tool belt. Here's a happy sad story. So I started switching to cordless tools 10 or 15 years ago, and the Makita was the brand back then, but it seemed for some reason maybe the big box stores weren't making enough money with this, so they switched over to other ones. So the batteries were wearing it. This is still, it's an old battery, but anyway, once you switch or start using a certain brand, if it's cordless, battery powered, you kind of have to make all your tools that brand, because the batteries are interchangeable, and at the expense of the batteries, you don't want to own like several different kinds of batteries for several different kinds of tools. It's just simpler that way. So that's an impact drill. I use that for roofing generally, or for it'll drive screws really well. And then also I have a drill for drill bits. Drill bits is a whole nother story. We'll get into that in a future episode. Jigsaw. I love this jigsaw. This is one of probably, of all my battery powered tools, one of my favorites. It just works. It's smooth. It works really well. That's for kind of trying to cut fancy little things into something you're building. These are the basics. So this is what we're going to use a few of these for sure on building a pair of sawhorses. From this point, it gets a little sketchy as far as to what you need next for equipment or tools. One of the things that makes this work look nicer is a chop saw, and sky's the limit. You can go with just a basic 7 1/4 blade up to a 12-inch blade or bigger. You can get sliding compound that angle both ways, this way, and then you can buy legs that would go under that, so it's a little more portable if you're on a job site. Also a table saw. Again, the sky's the limit on that. Depending on how much you're going to use it and how much money you have will determine how much you're going to spend on one. So over the years, I did not go out and buy like everything all at once. I started with the basics. I had to have this. The drills were a kind of a nice add-on. A lot of the wrenches and so on are handy. And I'll leave all of those on this side. Depending on, sometimes I'll lighten my load and I'll organize them a little differently, but I'll put those in there. Anyway, as I've gotten older, I don't like to carry as many tools, so I take them out. But let's get started on building a pair of sawhorses. Well, not to sound obvious, but the first thing you need is lumber to build sawhorses if you're making them out of wood. So 4 2x4/8 will make a pair of sawhorses. I'm going to cut them at 32 inches, the legs. I'll cut them to square to square. And I'm not going to, you can bevel, like if this is the foot where it would touch the ground, you can cut you can cut it at 22.5 degrees if you wanted. Again, using the square to set it at 22.5. Then you make that mark, and then you can cut it with a saw at an angle. I'm not going to do that. Just mine are typically out on the dirt. They don't need it. They don't care. This lumber is actually some that I had designated for the tiny house, so I'm not going to use it. But I do have a lot of scrap 2x4 cutoffs that I'll use that will give you the same result. The wood's a little discolored, but it's all solid, no rot to it. So every piece is going to be, for the legs, will be 32 inches. When you make a mark, I typically put a check, so I know exactly where that 32 is. The reason for 32 is out of an 8-foot 2x4, you can get 3 of them, and we need a total of 8. So out of 2 2 2/3 2x4s, you'll get all the legs, and then one more to do the top piece across. Okay. So speed square, that was in my tool belt, nice and handy. Put a mark there. Cut it over here. Safety glasses, earmuffs. That's the mark I made. So one thing you can just kind of cut it through there. You know what? I'm going to do 2 cuts. I'll do one this way, and I'll want you do one using the speed square. This has a mark or a sliced out piece right there, so you can know how to start with the wood. That's kind of handy. Let me grab another one. So again, we're just doing square to square cuts right now. And I just did that wrong. The way I'm going to do it with a speed square, I want to have the 32 inch right at the edge of the 2x. So you're going to set that out there. The speed square will not go out here. You need to set the saw right where you're going to cut and put that there. Then you can use this to ride the saw along there. They're about the same result. This one was a lot quicker, and you didn't have to be as precise. I can see a little of the pencil mark here, not so much here, and so on. Okay, so I'll cut 6 more of these and be right back. So now I'm going to cut the angle for the top part of the sawhorse, and I want it at 67.5 degrees. That will create a 22.5 degree from the other. I'll show you in a bit from the other direction. 67.5. Right there. And then I'll mark the same thing on the other side. So now we're going to try to cut this. So here's another tool, a bar clamp. It's handy to have. If you don't have them, maybe you have another person that can help you. But it kind of needs to be fixed fairly well. This table's a little wiggly wobbly. So I'm going to set this right on the pencil line and use that as a guide to get me started. Okay, and then we'll just flip it over and we'll cut the other side. I'm pulling this fence back, the protector, because if you leave it like that, sometimes it has a tendency to fetch up. I'll try without running it back. Okay. The rest of them I'm going to do on the chop saw, because it's just a hard thing to cut to get a really good line when you're doing a cut from this way and this way. So I'm going to do this on the chop saw. So over here on the chop saw, one of the nice things of this is it has all the degrees marked already, and some are presets. So you can go 15 degrees, 22 and a half. That 22 and a half degrees is equals a 512 roof pitch, just for out of interest. So now this is a 12-inch chop saw. I'm going to line up with the fence. I want to make a mark once I get. So I made a mark here once already for doing the same thing. I'll just write right on here with a pencil. This will be a lot better quality than the one I did with a hand circular saw. Hopefully. I'm keeping pressure against the fence. Let's go compare that to the other one. This is the one I did using the circular saw, and you can see it's not perfect there. This is the one on the chop saw. So for a difference in $400 or $500, well, let's see. So this matches it perfectly. This one's off just a little bit. It'll be fine for a sawhorse. So I'll make some more of these. Be right back. It took me the same amount of time to cut these on the chop saw as it did to make this one that's imperfect, which I'm going to go over and I'm going to run it through on the chop saw again. I want to straighten that out. I've already cut the top, the cross pieces that will tie everything together, and I marked them inside and outside because these are going to be stackable so that it doesn't take up as much room. I had one piece of pressure treated that I used up. So let's do the outside one first. I'm going to screw it together. Just going to bring them up flush. Pick the best side. Okay. Those were 2-inch screws that I'm using. 2.5, excuse me. So I'm using the square to square up the leg. Just using this point and that edge. Right there. My Makita batteries don't hold up anymore. I like the Makita battery because the torque is it's a little slower speed. There we go. Okay. This is the one I prettied up. I just smoothed it, made it smoother. Smoother aided it. Smoother aided. The two top pieces are a 1/2 inch different length so that they stack inside of each other. 47. They're identical now. All right. For now, I believe I'm just going to run 2.5 inch screws on each one. That firms it up pretty well. And then after I've got it all assembled, I'll run some longer screws in there. It's a lot easier to start the screw first, especially in this instance. If you had another person, that would be nice. But so I'm just making this flush with the top. Perfect. All right. All right, we'll just set this down and you can see what it looks like upright. Ta-da! Okay, so we're also going to add a triangle piece of plywood on the end. This is the outside one, so the plywood will be out here. If it was the inside one, we'd put the plywood on the inside. That way you can stack them. There is a pair. Nice. Okay, now we'll do the triangle supports. This is a good width, by the way, to give it good stability. It won't tip over easily. Just a scrap piece of plywood I had. So I've already cut one side at 22.5. I know the top of the Sawhorse is 1.5 inches wide. So I'll go there. Then we'll mark that at 22.5. Speed Square has all these little markings so you can go with the one you want. Right there. So I'll need two like this. These are for the outside ones. And then we'll need two for the inside. All right, I have the plywoods cut for, there's two of them. Those are for the outside Sawhorse, and these are for the inside. They're wider. You'll see why in just a second, but I'm sure you probably figured it out. All right, so I've cut the triangles. We'll just match that up. Ouch, sliver. Matching going that way. There. So I'll just finish up these on the other ones. Well, I'll show you the inside on the other one. And so these are the inside ones. And again, we're doing that so that they're stackable. There, that almost completes them. It just needs a lot more screws to get it more and more. Well, it's pretty solid there. So this is for the inside. That one's for the outside. You'll see that they don't stack that way. So it'll be pretty obvious, right? Just like that. Then you can lug them away. That's a little less than 4 full 2x4s if you had to buy the material. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this little episode of beginner carpentry. And I think I'll have more coming out. We'll see how this one goes. See if people like to watch it or not. But I appreciate you watching. Thanks, and leave a comment. And hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Tell others about this. Share it, you know. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. See you later. Have a great day.